Story 1. For the past 6 years, I've been married to Bruce. Bruce comes from a wealthy family, whereas I come from a low-income family. When my sister found out Bruce, she made nasty comments about how I am a fancy housewife. The moment I'd introduced Bruce to my parents and siblings, Lisa, Mike, and John. How I looked for a man to look after me, how fancy I'm essentially a sugar. None of this is correct. I have a very well-paying job, and I honestly didn't realize Bruce was rich and successful for the first few years we were dating, because he lived in a very relaxed, ordinary life. When he invited me to meet his parents, he told me about his fortune because he didn't want me to be surprised. I was able to contact Lisa not long after we got engaged because she began sending naked pictures to Bruce, seducing for trying to steal him. When he turned her down, she called him a cradle robber snatcher. There was a huge fight and a few other not-so-pleasant events 3 years ago. When my mother called 2 weeks ago to invite me to dinner at her home, I thought nothing more of it, and Bruce and I were down. After a minute of our arrival, my sister and her 2 children, a boy and a girl, showed up. It was a jaw-dropping moment. Bruce and I wanted to leave ASAP, but my mother requested us to stick and listen, so we did. Mike and John had apparently let slip that I had assisted them in paying tuition for my nephews and niece. As a result of this, Lisa asked if I would be willing to aid her in paying for her children as well. When she asked me this, I was taken aback because I knew that twins' late father had left them enough money to attend college. I asked her about the money. She said because the pandemic devastated them and she lost her job, she claimed she had to spend half of it on debt over the last 2 years. I told her it was unfortunate, but I'm not going to assist her pay for college costs because 1, we haven't spoken for 4 years. 2, she's been mean to me my entire life. And 3, she hasn't even offered an apology for what she did to me. She told me that all of that was in the past and that I should move on. This enraged me even more, and I simply left without saying anything else to her. My mother has been calling me ever since that day, pleading with me to simply give them the cash because I can afford it. Mike and John have mentioned that they will support any decision I make, and apologize for informing her of what I did for them. And I discovered that my sister had posted online about how I was selfish and who didn't want to help her less wealthy family. Lisa's friends even called me to tell me that I was being small-minded. My husband is mad and humiliated by the situation, but he has noted that he will support me regardless of the decision I make. I could aid my sister with the college, but I refuse because of how she was treated me throughout my life, and I feel like an asshole in my situation. Story 2. It may seem strange in the cultural context, but the women in my family are not expected to work. If you do this, you'll be looked down because it implies that your husband isn't good enough to support you. Arranged marriage are also a thing. and prospective partner is generally chosen for you based on their wealth and social status. Their personality or appearances aren't that important. I'd like to point that it is in fact as old-fashioned as it sounds. I am attempting to keep the word countdown going while explaining this. I'm married for love, and with that out of the way, I've seen these marriages success at roughly the same rate as the non-arranged marriage I've witnessed. My husband is fantastic. On an emotional and intellectual level, we complement each other. He's a total babe, and nearly a half-decade of marriage. I'm still waiting for the honeymoon period to end. Better yet, he does not base his sense of value and maleness on whether or not his wife works. My husband is from the same culture as I am, and as bad as it sounds, we would never have met because he wasn't at the level of success and money. And he's freaking proud of what I do. His brother got a wife the traditional way, and she's a kept woman. She's really sweet, and we got along, but it's clear that she doesn't work. She kind of looks down on me because I work. I send my child to daycare 3 days a week, and she has made comments about it in the past that I have simply ignored. I don't blame her, it's just the way she brought it up. Because we have 2 incomes, I could arrange the nursery for my child as well as a cute playroom for them. When my nephew and a niece visit for a week twice a year, they're always having a good time. I always send them home with presents so they don't cry when they end up leaving. Anyway, I had bought a play kitchen for my child's playroom, and when my niece and nephew came to visit, they loved it. It was too large for them to take home, so I decided to order it for them online. My nephew began asking why they didn't have one at home while I was sitting with my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law added, "Successful, because it's too expensive." My nephew then questioned how my child could have one without even thinking about it. I responded intuitively because I work, and as soon as it came out of my mouth, I knew I would fuck up. To aggravate the situation, my nephew began to question his mother about why she didn't work so he could have a play kitchen. She yelled at him and then became distant with me until they left 3 days later. I wasn't sure how she'd take it, so I decided to keep the play kitchen here. I enjoy my job, and my child enjoys going daycare. He's a very social toddler. I'm proud of my job, but I'm regretful of how I most likely made her feel. Story 3. I'm 35 years old and work as a construction designer and metal management. Not overly ambitious, decent salary, nothing out of the ordinary. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and I have 2 sons. We're middle class, and we live in a small 2-bedroom house. Boys are at school, and my wife sells handmade accessories on Etsy. My oldest brother and his common road brother, who is my age, have a 19-year-old daughter who's studying for a degree in art. My brother works for the tax office, and his partner is a retired Coast Guard pensioner. They were having financial difficulties during their daughter's senior year. Brother requested a loan to pay for his daughter's final year for tuition. which was a couple of thousand. I discussed it with my wife, and even though we aren't wealthy, we'll still want to support. Although we were aware of that unwritten agreement that if you give loans to your family, you can pretty much say adios to the money. Brother appreciated me, took the money, pledged to pay it back, blah blah blah. That was 3 years ago, and their daughter graduated and has returned home to work at the mall. It's okay because she's young. What isn't acceptable is that my brother and his husband posted photos of their European vacation, their new ciboulette, and other random things all over Twitter and Instagram. My brother and I communicate mostly through Instagram. It may have a bitchy and meme, but I posted a photo of them beneath the Eiffel Tower. You're very fortunate, and my wife and I plan to visit you once the house is paid off and we've taken care of our other loans. Brother DM'd me and accused me of shaming them. I replied, "Why do you have something to be ashamed of?" I had already written off the debt in my mind, but I thought it was trashy for him to show off his wealth when he knew they borrowed 9 grand for his brother, who has his own family to take care of. I didn't even say anything like, "Oh, look, why are you spending money when you owe me 9 grand," or anything. So even though I felt small-minded when I posting it, I didn't read like a false claim. Because actually many people in my family mutual friends liked it or hearted my comment. However, my brother still thinks I'm being trashy and texted me to tell me so, claiming that his daughter hasn't even looked for work and that's his daughter debt, etc. So wow, am I the asshole?